1 minute. Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. Board Chair Mrs. Ziegler is out this evening, and I will be sitting in as chair. The public is encouraged and welcomed to address the school board at the hearing of citizens. The board clerk, Mrs. Tompkins, collects the cards for our hearing of citizens. Once the hearing of citizens begins, no more cards will be collected. I will call you forward at the appropriate time. Our student representative today is Gabriel Merman, and Gabriel will lead us in the pledge. If you could please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Order, arms, backward step, center face, forward march. Pose, colors, present arms, order arms, center face, forward march. Forward step, right face, forward march.
Thank you to the Sarasota High School JROTC under the direction of Sergeant Polfus. And thank you to our student representative, Gabriel Merman, for leading us in the pledge. Welcome, Gabriel, and it's nice to have you join us as the student representative this evening. We want to hear more about you. Tell us about yourself, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gabriel Merman, and I'm a senior at Sarasota High School. So my last 4 years at SHS have been super inspiring and eye-opening. I want to thank a few teachers first for some amazing learning, whether it be history debates in Dr. Critchfield's class or English discussions in Miss Barisi's class. I'm thankful to have been a part of them. My most difficult classes were the 2 years of ACE statistics with Miss Garrett, or as we call her, G-Money. She worked extra hard to help me and the little man inside the calculator, as we call him, to get the right answers. Our principal, David Jones, has always stood by my and every student's side, cultivating an infectious pride in being a sailor. After having lost a sense of community when we left physical school freshman year, I felt I wanted to share my enjoyment of the outdoors with other students. After involving over 180 students in our adventures, we wanted to bring back nature back to school with us by planting 80 trees on campus to send a message to the community about our care for students' physical and mental well-being as well as to offset our school's paper usage. We learned that we use 1.25 million pieces of paper each year. Working with my fellow sailors leaves me with confidence that at SHS and all across the county, students will be able to deepen their passions, and make positive change for a more sustainable future. My work as an ambassador of Teen Court has also allowed me to see the amazing resilience of our students in Sarasota County schools. One of my favorite statistics, but also one of my least favorites, is 43. That is the percentage of teens that we work with that have depression and anxiety, which is going to be very important to address in the following years and right now. From my experiences, I've learned that working together, we can not only achieve great things, but leave behind our differences for a greater good and cultivate a great community in doing so. When students come up with a bold idea, it is certainly easier to tell them no than to find a way to make ends meet. Through my endeavors, I've learned that the single most important thing to achieving any goal is saying yes, and the willingness from faculty and beyond to say yes to help the students make the dreams come true is super, super important. Over the next year, I will embark on a gap year before starting my 4 years at Duke University, where I'll be seeing what can come from working together and saying yes. Thank you guys for having me here.
Thank you, Gabriel, for serving as our student representative. Well done. We presented you with a certificate of appreciation, and I have to mention that you did win the award for the best smile, and we can all attest to that at your school. Good for you, and we wish you the best of luck in your future, and thank you for being with us this evening.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
The special presentation today will be highlighting the Spring Art Show. I would like to invite Angela Hartvickson, the Fine Arts Program Specialist, to the podium to begin the presentation. Mrs. Hartvickson, please.
We're going to combine a couple of highlights this evening. So good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see you. And Gabriel, you're going to have a little surprise here in a moment. It's a good one. We're so pleased to be able to highlight one of our young artists this evening. Mia Liang is a freshman at Pineview School. You may remember back in March when I told you that some of our students had work go on to the national level of the Scholastic Art Awards. 2 of those pieces were Mia's. I'm excited to tell you that Mia received both an American Visions Medal and a silver medal at the National Scholastic Art Awards. Here are those 2 stunning award-winning pieces. But wait, there's more. Just 2 weeks ago, Mia's color drawing, Grasping at Revolt, was named by U.S. Representative Greg Steube as the winner of the 2023 Congressional Art Competition for the 17th District. Every spring, the Congressional Institute sponsors a national high school art competition in each district. Students submit entries to the representative's office, and panels of district artists select the winning entries. Also recognized this year was Sarasota High student Aiden Teisch for his 3rd place winning photograph. Winners are recognized both in their district and at annual awards ceremonies in Washington, D.C. Mia's piece will be on display in the U.S. Capitol for 1 year. Here is a picture of Mia with Mr. Steube, and here is her award-winning piece. She is joined here tonight by her parents, as well as proud Pineview principal, Dr. Stephen Covert, and Pineview art teacher, Lewis Miller. Let's give them a hand. We know how important this kind of support is for all students. So Mia is here to tell us a little bit about her journey with art so far and about her inspirations for Grasping at Revolt. Mia?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Mia Liang, a freshman from Pineview School, but I was already introduced earlier, so you guys already know that. Want to start off by saying that I am extremely honored to be here tonight, being in the recognition of the Sarasota School Board. I also would like to thank my school's encouragement and support, as shown by Dr. Covert and Mr. Miller here today. And now I'm going to talk about my journey in art. So I started drawing when I was 5 years old. While this may seem like, wow, you've been drawing for so long, you must have been very consistent with your art style and your drawing achievements, right? No, actually, I would like to say that I really only broke through in my artistic achievements 2 to 3 years ago. My art was not as great as it is now, but my passion for art has not changed over the years. My favorite part of art is sharing my art with family and friends and expressing my feelings through art. I think that the learning process for art is not easy, and I don't think any learning process is ever easy, whether it be music, in the academics, sports, etc. To me, art is something that can graphically express things that words cannot say. As Greek poet Simonides of Chios once said, "Painting is silent poetry, and poetry is painting with the gift of speech." However, sometimes I think we as artists focus way too much on finding deep meanings, but sometimes art can be something simple. For example, when I go on walks, sometimes I see scenery that I really enjoy, so I take a picture of it with my phone, and I sit down at home and I start doing oil paintings of them. Sometimes I just take a canvas and just prop it up and paint the scenery right in front of me. To me, art is also something therapeutic and calming. I find it really nice to let out my emotions when I draw, especially when I'm having a bad day. And I think it's kind of evident, like, if you see my art, you would see sometimes it's very relaxed, it's just a simple scenery, or sometimes it's a little bit more involved. For example, I did one on phone addiction because I feel like I spend way too much time on my phone sometimes. I think a lot of you guys can relate. All right, I would like to talk a little bit about my award-winning piece, Grasping at Revolt. So this one, I would, one of my classmates helped me name it. It was Ella Rose Sherman. I'm not sure if any of you know her, but she was also selected for the spring art competition. You should go check out her work. She has very nice art too. So I would like to address the word choice I used in Grasping at Revolt. There are two different ways to interpret grasping. Like you see in this piece, like the teen is like kind of like pushing the lid of the box here, and she's trying to get out. She's trying to grasp at the unsafe life that seems very tempting and appealing to her. I'm sure, like, you guys seen it before, may have experienced it yourselves. You're kind of peer pressured to do something that you know it's not safe, but you find that's kind of thrilling. And the other part of grasping, you can see with the large hands. Now, you may think, when you look at this piece, the large hands are the subject of the piece, even though they're not really the subject of the piece. It's more of the teenager trying to escape the box. However, I put this as a way of showing how it still can be seen as the subject of the piece. Grasping can be seen with the hands grasping onto the teenager's life. They're like trying to advise them not to do it, but as teenagers, we're kind of stubborn, and we go like, no, you're just micromanaging my life. So yeah, that's what my art piece means to me. I think this is my most complex thought process I've had for a piece, and I experimented with these teen problems and concerns that our society sees today in my art portfolio, and Mr. Miller can testify to that. Well, thank you all for having me here tonight, and it was great to speak with you all.
We're so proud of Mia and all of her talent. We are just finishing up this year's Sarasota County Arts Spring Art Show. The show is held in 2 sites at 2 longtime partnering art centers, Venice Art Center and Art Center Sarasota. We have a South County show and a North County show. You can see the run dates of these 2 shows. The North County show will be up through this Saturday, and they're open on Saturday from 12 to 5. And that's where Mia's colleagues, Ella Rose's piece is. She actually has a piece in the show as well. Over the next several slides, you'll see a few of the many wonderful highlights from our high school artwork. Across the two sites, we feature artwork from all traditional K-12 Sarasota County schools and many of our charters. In any one year, we exhibit around 3,000 pieces of student artwork between our two shows. Does that name look familiar up there? He actually won an award, a Best of Show, actually, for the North County Art Show last week. Multi-talented man, what can you say? Our elementary school exhibits work across all grade levels, exhibit art from across all grade levels, representing many of the projects they've done throughout the year. Middle school is similar, but there are now new middle school awards, 3 for South County and 3 for North, provided by the Arts Advocates. High school students compete for first, second, and third place awards in each of 12 different categories. There are also special awards at each of the two shows. In addition to the partnering art centers, wonderful sponsors of the spring art shows and their awards include the Education Foundation of Sarasota County, the Community Foundation of Sarasota County, the Sarasota Art Education Association, and Sarasota Art and Frame. We're very grateful to all of them. Additionally, Ringling College of Art and Design provides summer study awards for several of our students and 2 $10,000 scholarships for Sarasota County Schools students who have been admitted to their college. This year's scholarship winners are Veronica Kakamova, whose work is seen on this slide, and then Samantha Tonelli on the following slide. We are very proud of all of our talented artists and our art students, and their dedicated teachers are the reason for so much of it. We appreciate the parental, school, and district level support. Lastly, of course, we treasure the community partnerships that make it all possible. Before I close, all the best to my fantastic colleague, Brian Hirsch, as he moves over to support the arts and our students at the Arts and Cultural Alliance of Sarasota County. I'll miss you around here, my friend. We hope you've enjoyed a glimpse into visual art in the Sarasota County schools. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Harvickson. I can speak for the board. I'm sure that we're very proud of the arts in our school community, and it's continues to be a high priority to have our students have these opportunities to reflect the arts in Sarasota County at large. We are quite unique. Mia, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us. Gabriel, congratulations again, and to all the art students that participated. Now moving on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Foster, please.
All right, thank you. First of all, I'd like to congratulate our Exceptional Student Education Department. They recently received word from the Florida Department of Education, including validation by the Bureau of Exceptional Education and Student Services that Sarasota County Schools had no findings of noncompliance for participation and alternate assessment based on alternate academic achievement standards. I'd also like to congratulate Sonia Figueredo Alberts, Executive Director of Exceptional Student Services. She was recently awarded a certificate of recognition for her 45 years of service. The certificate was awarded on March 27th by the Sarasota County Commission in celebration of her upcoming retirement, which is this Friday. The honor spotlighted her steady vision and commitment to making a difference for students with special needs. Sonia has provided excellent support and service to students with disabilities with a keen ability to their potential and has been determined to transform their lives. Her mission has been to help every student excel every day, overcoming all obstacles. Sonia's heart, knowledge, and dedication to helping students has made her a true champion for exceptional student education. And Sonia was recognized before the school board meeting this evening, we were able to recognize many retirees. We have 168 people who are retiring from our district this year. They represent 3,578 collective years of service. 59 of our retirees had 25 or more years. 37 retirees had 30 years or more, and four had 40, with the most represented at 45 years. And so I want to thank all of our staff members who are retiring this year for their many years of service to the district. I also want to give an update on textbook adoptions. Sarasota County Schools will be adopting textbooks for both K-12 mathematics and K-12 social studies over the course of the next several months. The links to the timelines, which include dates and times of public meetings, along with a copy of the committee textbook evaluation, can be found at sarasotacountyschools.net/textbook adoptions. Parents and guardians, anyone wishing to serve on the textbook adoption committee for the review of K-12 math and social studies textbooks, is encouraged to click on the Textbook Adoption Committee Parent Application link located on the Textbook Adoptions webpage. The application opened yesterday and it will close at 3:00 p.m. on Thursday, May 25th. Applications will be selected at random. Each school district in the state of Florida is given the opportunity to participate in the Superintendent Scholarship annually, which provides college scholarships to 2 students in each district. This year, Florida Prepaid offered 1 scholarship to a kindergarten student and 1 scholarship to a 12th grade student. In order to qualify for the Superintendent's Scholarship in Sarasota County, each student must have met the requirements of less than 5 unexcused absences, no discipline referrals, and good academic standing for the 2022-23 school year. Kindergarten students were required to submit a drawing titled "What I Want to Be When I Grow Up," and seniors submitted an essay titled "Why I Want to Attend College." The kindergarten student selected, and if you'll come on up, was Isla Anderson from Laurel Nokomis. Isla's drawing stood out by her colors, attention to detail, and her handwritten title. Isla's drawing reflected her as an astronaut standing on the moon.
Okay. Say hi. Where should we go? Right in the front? Okay. Sorry. We'll go right here. Good job.
We want to come down with her. All right.
Right, and we'll be going back for another picture. We have the 12th grade student that was selected was Casey Dow from Sarasota High School. Casey's essay stood out from the others as she wrote of her personal experience dealing with the traumatic incident of her dad having a heart attack at a young age. Casey wrote about how the quick action of the doctors and nurses inspired her to go into the medical profession and to give back to other families in need. So both of the selected students demonstrated creativity and vision, and we are honored to recommend them for the Superintendent's Scholarship. Right. And finally, I would like to congratulate all of our high school graduates. On Friday, we will have graduation ceremonies for Oak Park, Suncoast Polytech High School, Sarasota High School, and Venice High. On Saturday, we have ceremonies scheduled for Booker High School, Northport High, and Riverview High School. And on Sunday, we have the graduation program for Pineview. We're so proud of all of our high school graduates, and we wish them well as they move on with their college or career path. So that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. And I just want to give one more round of applause and recognition to Mrs. Sonia Figueredo Alberts for her years of service for our exceptional student education students. And I know you've got that big smile on your face, so thank you, Sonia. Hearing of citizens. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. When the timer flashes yellow, 1 minute remains and you need to begin to summarize. You must stop speaking when the buzzer rings. To the audience, please note that respect for divergent viewpoints and civility will be shown at every board meeting. Whether you agree or disagree with a speaker, you should listen politely and respectfully without making any sounds of approval or disapproval, including clapping. You can wave your hands, etc. I recognize there is a lot of passion and emotion with the decisions that come before this board and the impact they have on our students, families, staff, and community. As such, I believe it is important that we afford the opportunity for every speaker to be heard. To my fellow board members, any comments during hearing of citizens that you would like to respond to will take place at the conclusion of public comment. My request is that when you respond, you keep it to the issues that have been brought forward and refrain from directing it to any individual of the public. Per state statute 1001.373, anyone causing a disruption will first be given a warning, and if the conduct does not stop, you will be removed from the chambers. So we've read that 1,000 times, and I just want to add a little caveat to it that's important to me. I think that everyone on this board wants this community to unite. I can't imagine that everyone in the audience, I've talked to several of you, want the same thing. And you have your freedom of speech, and we all respect that. We've had Gabriel Merman and our students all talking and presenting tonight and really modeled for us what kind of community Sarasota is. We have a fabulous arts community. I am going to ask you with as much respect as I possibly can to please not personalize your comments. I think that we want to hear what you have to say and we want to respond to you. So I am asking you to please this evening consider being in the form that our students were, in what we want our students to do in our classrooms and how we want them to solve problems. So want to hear your issues. Please attack the issue, the problem, provide solutions, and again, with as much respect as I can possibly give you as a great community, please try to not personalize this. A new frontier. So I'm going to begin by calling Larry Wilson up, followed by Linda Wilson, followed by Jessica Thomason. Please.
My name is Larry Wilson, and I live in Venice. I'm a former school teacher, secondary level myself, and I have a continued interest in the education of young people. I want to start by pointing out that I believe item 37 on the agenda tonight has to do with payment of $10,000 to settle a lawsuit. Is that not correct? you can't respond?
We want to hear what you have to say
Okay.
first, Mr. Wilson, please.
All right, well, I don't want to go off on a tangent. So, I believe that that's the case, and that was because the Sunshine Law was found to be violated by the committees that were choosing textbook, and I noticed that the school board superintendent has addressed that tonight, and I hope that in the future there would be more transparency in choosing textbooks. And I know that was done under the old board, and I think that it probably wouldn't have been done during this board, but I don't know. But I would urge you to make sure that you keep close tabs on what the committees are doing, because committees, and tonight there was I believe I saw on the agenda there were 180 pages. No, 680 pages in tonight's agenda. That's a lot of stuff for you guys to keep track of, isn't it? And it involves hundreds of millions of dollars. I would hate to have to sit there and be in charge of that myself. So I know that committees are very important, but I urge you to take very close note of what the committees are doing, what they're comprised of, who they're comprised of, and the decisions that they make. The Florida Citizens Alliance has compiled a list of 58 books that contain pornography found in the school premises of the counties in Florida. 38%, according to them, 38% are right here in Sarasota. That is, of the 58 books that they have found to be pornographic, 38% of them are found in our libraries. So last week, our last school board meeting, a gentleman spoke about his son who was being bullied because of a celebration for LGBTQ students who were trying to promote a celebration, and he was under a lot of pressure and he said he was being bullied, said that the counselors and the...
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
That's it?
That's it. We
I
very
didn't
much
even see
appreciate it, and thank you for sticking to the issue. Really, very much appreciated. Linda Wilson, please, followed by Jessica Thomason.
Hi, I'm Linda Wilson. I taught for the district and retired in 2016 and have volunteered ever since then, and are in the elementary school 2 mornings a week teaching reading. I too wanted to respond to the story from Mr. Brunt. As a former teacher from the district, the first thing I said to myself, is it real? Did this really happen? Because in my years in the district, I never saw any bullying. We never allowed anything like that to happen. And so I would like to know, did it really happen? And if it did happen, what school did it happen in? Because Governor DeSantis has promised us that Florida is the place where woke comes to die. And that's what we expected in our last election when we voted for Enos Marinelli and, thank you. What's her name? Help me with it. Bridget Ziegler, CEM. Anyway, that was our first issue. The second issue is the Vermillion vote, where it was 28,000 to, my master's degree was in curriculum development, so it was for 28,000 to go through the curriculum to make sure that we were following Florida state law. That is nothing. I cannot believe that did not pass. So I'm asking those of you that are on the school board to remember why you were voted in. I still have the cards, your cards on my desk, that not just hundreds of people, thousands of people. We went out in the streets fighting for the children of this community because we love it so much, and we expect you to do your job. You have another vote coming up tonight, and that is number 34 on the agenda. And that one, again, you're thinking about paying $500,000. That's $500,000 for someone to check the curriculum when you could have had it done for $28,000. It just does not make sense to me. And we are not about equity. Remember, we're about equality. Finally, I wanted to say that as a former teacher, I loved my job. I loved every day being in school with the children. I loved the teachers I worked with. I loved the district. But maybe some of the school board members don't understand that they are under the same rules as the teacher.
Thank you, Mrs.
And I was
Wilson.
going to read them, but look up professional.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Jessica Thomason, please, followed by Bill Neese, please, and Brenda Pasteruk.
Hi, good evening. My name's Jessica Thomason. Oh, is that the timer? This is like my 4th time up here, and I'm looking for that timer. So if it turns yellow, I'm running out, right? I didn't even prepare anything, but I wanted to say I watched most of the workshop today. It was really great. I want to go back and rewind because, interruptions and things like that, but I thought it was awesome. It was nice to hear a lot of talk about real things that are going to affect our kids, and I'm really glad everyone mentioned sort of looking at an overall budget, because I love Dr. Foster's ideas about having this professional training and everything, but then there's also the unknown. We still don't know how much money we might lose due to vouchers, or what the big picture would look like. So I'm looking forward to seeing sort of a larger scale budget. And then if I have time, I wanted to talk about MTSS. And so I had a 3rd grader who was going into 4th grade at a new school, and she had a 504, and I really didn't know what that meant. In fact, I was talking to another parent who said, I don't think my kid's ESE, and I said, do they have a 504? And she's like, yeah. I said, I think they are ESE. So I just want to make sure that the board is aware that there is definitely confusion, on the parents' side of things, because even though I've been, I now have a 5th grader, so for almost 3 years now, I've been kind of navigating her 504, and I only recently fully understood what MTSS was in this tier 1, 2, and 3. Anyway, when she was in 4th grade, I was so confused by it all and trying to sort of advocate for her at her school that I ended up hiring somebody to help me go through that process. And this person attended my 504 meetings with me. It was almost like having an attorney, although it wasn't of an aggressive nature, but it was just like I needed someone to almost translate for me what all of this stuff meant. So I think now that we've gone to another school and it's a little bit easier to get the support that she needs, what I'm finding is that the support was there all along, but I really didn't know how to find it. Or if I'm having trouble with my school, where would I go next? And so I would just like to suggest that you maybe consider something on the website, or just some sort of organization, centrally, that makes it easy for parents to figure out what's the next step when my kid needs help. I think that's it, and I still haven't gotten buzzed out. So anyway, thank you all. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomason. Up is Bill Neese, again followed by Brenda Pasteruk.
Good evening. My name is Bill Neese. I'm a citizen of Sarasota. I have a couple of kids, grandchildren in the school district, and they're improving every day. So I appreciate all the good things. I want to focus on those good things, but just for a second, I'd like to take a trip down memory lane for myself, because I remember when I was a senior in high school 55 years ago, I stood in that spot and received an award from our school district to become a future teacher. That's very memorable to me and very special that our district voted that. And so I appreciate all the good things that our district does for young people. I'm a product, so just to note that way. I give special appreciation to this board for voting the biggest raise for our school district's teachers that has ever happened, and I appreciate that. I know that teachers appreciate it, in the day-to-day aspects. There's a lot of things that our teachers go through, and there's a lot of, let's say, misunderstanding, but sometimes that little financial help goes a long ways to showing our appreciation. I also am very thankful for our being able to tape the IEPs, which is a major policy change and shows the deep concern for parents and their ability to understand the process and track progress for their children. It doesn't mean that it's all done, it just means we're on a good track, and this is a very positive thing. The total district policy review, which is underway, is an important step to align the district with the new legislation and the state, from the state and state mandates, which are not optional. Respecting the law is a significant change in the board's attitude, which is required by oath, as I know you know, and an example to our children. And as you already spoke, Mrs. Rose, the example to our children is a critical step in showing civility. I understand the importance of early childhood education, and there's been a lot of political theater, and it's easy to get distracted with that sometimes, but it's very important to keep our focus on the main purpose of our district, which is education. There are still nearly 15,000 students reading below grade level, and I know that you have not forgotten that, and the progress that we're going to make in the future towards that, I believe, will be significant. So I appreciate all the hard work that's going towards that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neese.
My name is Brenda Pastrick, and I've been a resident of Sarasota for 23 years, but I have served as a school board member in East Haven, Connecticut, so I can appreciate where all of you are coming from. And I'm going to start tonight with a scripture, Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be in dread of them, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. And I know there have been some of us that have come under attack for our stands, but we're going to stand strong. And we are going to thank the members of the school board for standing strong and forging ahead, because the most important thing, take away all the little side distractions going on, is the excellence in education for our students. And I know that's what we all want. I want to give thanks because I know there was a mother pleading for a very long time for letting parents walk their kids to the classrooms. In many ways, it's a symbol of parents and teachers uniting to support the children's education. This is an important step in ending the divisiveness that plagues so many school districts. I also want to thank the board for staying out of the Florida School Board Association and focusing on the needs of our local district, instead of a woke agenda being promoted from multiple entities outside our state. Again, I'm just here to say thank you and to be in support and look forward to the changes that are going to come for the good of excellence in education in Sarasota County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have Linda Weston is up next, followed by Jim Gabriel, followed by Linda Weinrook, please.
Sounds like lots of Lindas tonight. My name's Dr. Linda Weston. I have a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in education. That PhD coming from an Ohio college that starts with the word "the." Yeah, watch that in Florida. I have a career of 40 years in education, teaching grades kindergarten through graduate school. The last 12 years, I was an assistant superintendent responsible for curriculum, K-12, and personnel. I met Sarasota administrators back when I was recruiting in Ohio, hoping that the Sarasota schools wouldn't entice our Ohio grads away, but impressed with the quality in Sarasota. And maybe that I would live there someday, and now I do. However, I'm concerned about the current direction of schools and education in the state of Florida and in our county. It feels like training and experience of educators is being ignored, and we're tying their hands. Parents know about foods their children won't eat, how much sleep they need, their favorite plaything, favorite video game, and parents give the children their family values and their religious values. Educators know subjects and techniques. They know the basics of topics and the thinking which stretches and intrigues those students beyond the basics. My qualitative dissertation was done in my 4th grade classroom. I looked at the experience of a read aloud with those children and what developed from that community of students in their critical thinking and the ways in which that bonding experience took place. However, I think that this type of learning can be stifled and is being stifled in the area. Many decisions are being enforced in Florida today. When I was the assistant superintendent, I was given the responsibility of handling any book challenges by parents. In the 12 years, I handled 2 of those challenges and made a report by the appropriate committee to the school board. So I'd like to say to you all, put your trust in the education and the professional people you have working in this county right now. They know so much about students, and they look to you also for their support. Thank you for hearing me out.
Dr. Weston, thank you. Jim Gabriel, please. Followed by Linda Weinrich.
I'm glad to be here. We are here because we love our kids. We love this situation of the opportunity they have to learn to be good citizens. And protecting these children, their innocence, to protect them from sexualization and all these things, working to get the books clear so that there aren't things in there that are going to distort or miseducate our children. And so I have faith and confidence that this group has a character to work on these things. One of the things is that we see a sacrifice in the willingness to sacrifice, where people like Tim Enos has let go of a situation in business in supporting the police. He let go of that pension so he could come here and help. And we look at these teachers with the other school board members who've worked hard over the years. And so we look forward to the character of these people to help pull things through so that we can continue. So we'll be patient. You're taking care of things as best I've heard, step by step, and getting things done. So whatever the characters or criticisms that occur, we'll be here through tough times or easy times, but we're not going to give up on you, and we're not going to give up on our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gabriel. And heartfelt, can't control myself. Thank you so much for speaking and not personalizing and addressing the issues. Forgive me. I just have to say it. It's a pleasure to listen. Mrs. Weinrich, please.
Hi, congratulations at the end of the school year. I know it's, that's a big deal when you get to that, but I hate to hear of all those teachers retiring. I would like to express thanks to the school board for your publicly stated desires to raise the interaction in our community between students, teachers, parents, grandparents, and to raise not only academic standards, but also to help each student be able to achieve personal success in their lives, and with high moral standards. With such a large county, I know this is a challenge, before Bridget, Karen, Robin, Tim ran for their offices, I went to forums where they spoke about why they were running. I was delighted Bridget had young children, and she was a young person herself, because as you know, we had an older school board. And I thought that was good to have younger people. Bridget had aspirations for her children's education, and, I thought that would be a breath of fresh air. I was also excited to learn about the deep hands-on experiences that Karen Rose was bringing to her job from what she had done in her career, and especially her ethics in working with parents and young people to get an agreement on, the appropriate actions to take with each student that she dealt with. Also, I was tickled when I heard Tim talk about the safety things that he had done on the campus, knowing that he had, gone from the police department to the safety officer on the campus. And he had success in the law and with his own family, and that excited me. I thought that was a good thing, a good change, I was excited to vote for him. I mean, I made an effort to hear your speeches early on when you were first running. Also, Robin had a great background directly working with young people, and I think, hands-on experience is really very valuable. And the whole board has been working to raise the standards, and we want that. We want excellence. We do have a lot of very smart young people, and there's a lot of potential here to do even more. I've not been disappointed with the progress so far, and I feel that each one of you continues to offer so much strength to the board. We want transparency in finances, which is something that I'd like to see, and I think, Tim, you spoke about that. I'm excited to see, what can happen. Everybody should understand where the money's coming from, where it's going to go to, why we have teachers feeling like they don't have enough money for supplies in their classroom, or what. We'd like to know. It's been mentioned that the raises taxpayers voted for should not be an unusual thing, and I agree with that.
Thank
I
you,
had
Mrs.
many more
Weinrich.
things, but I just appreciate you also.
We appreciate you. Thank you, Mrs. Weinrich. Thank you for the compliments. Up is Esther Rockwell, followed by Callie Botsworth, followed by Nicholas Machuca, please.
Hi. Hi, I hope I don't lose my voice this time. I'm here today to commend this board of everything you have tried to do to return education to what it was meant to be, instead of confusing children of their sexuality and relationship to their friends of color. Pushing transgenderism and allowing boys and girls in restrooms was never meant to be. Thank you for letting parents walk their children to their classrooms. It unites parents and teachers to their educational needs and ends divisiveness that plagues so many other districts. Of course, we thank you for voting for the biggest raise in Sarasota's history with the governor's support to give teachers our appreciation for their work. We also thank you for staying out of the Florida School Board Association and focusing on the needs of our local district instead of a woke agenda, which is being promoted from many areas outside the state. Never have we allowed pornographic books given to students to read, and when they were removed, progressiveness are calling it censorship. Yet they were never, ever allowed before. This is not education, but encouraging young students to experiment with sexual activity, which creates more problems. The cancellation of the Neola contract was a right step towards regaining control of a policy decision from a local perspective. It will also allow for fresh input from other sources. We give Karen Rose thanks for insisting on educational excellence. All the political distractions just make it hard to keep focused on the main purpose of our district education, when there is nearly 15,000 students reading below grade level, and Rose has not forgotten them. We give thanks to Bridget Ziegler for her excellent leadership. You have always been constant with our children to benefit from your highest priority. We give thanks for Tim Enos for his dedication to protect our children from outside or inside harm. And we also thank Robin Marinelli for the insight she brings for being a long-term district employee and understands the importance of parental involvement. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to congratulate the work our new school board has done to dispel all the negative responses that had been given. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rockwell. Ms. Botsworth, please. Followed by Nicholas Machuca, please.
Thank you. I was really happy to hear some of the extremists present their very first fact at the last school board meeting, although it was just as useless as Dwight from The Office saying bears eat beets, but better luck next time. I am hoping, though, that the same extremists that do walk up to this podium whose pockets are lined and get paid to come up here and speak, and whose parents write their speeches for them have practiced a little bit more for this meeting. I also want to mention that these same extremists were surprisingly able to curate a very thoughtful message and sent to me, letting me know that I, as a white woman, should not be speaking on the BIPOC community, in which I did 2 school board meetings ago, which I found very insightful and also ironic, considering that it came to one of our fellow white women here. But I'm not here to speak on their blatant racism and ties to white supremacy. I'm here because I was very troubled about the declaration of some school board members receiving anti-Christian emails, so I wanted to speak on that. I think it's easy to believe and convey this narrative when it's not always the case that the member receiving them is scholastically or religiously educated on what's actually happening in the church. So I wanted to speak on that today. A study was done in 2021 which showed that 3,500 people every day leave the church. Why could that be? Perhaps it's that the word Christian has been perverted, and we have chosen to put our faith and religion into politics and politicians, and if you'll remember correctly, Jesus flipped tables for that. Yes, this very same thing you base your entire personality around, Jesus flipped tables over. You have pastors and church leaders in mass grooming and sexually assaulting children, which you were so vehemently against last month, if I remember correctly. This is not hyperbole. There are active investigations against the church for sex crimes that span over multiple decades. We want to talk about religion? Let's do so. You are living and acting the exact opposite of what Jesus did with his life on this earth, and if you do not follow the life of Christ, then you cannot claim to be a Christian. Where are your fruits of the Spirit then? Or have you not read the Bible where it says, Isaiah 1:17, learn to do good, seek justice and correct oppression, Psalm 9:8, where it talks about how God judges with equity and how the Lord is a refuge for the oppressed, or Isaiah 10:1, where it says, woe to those who decree iniquitous decrees and rights who keep writing laws of oppression, and for the extremists in the room, iniquitous means grossly unfair. God loves diversity so much he included it in the biblical text, like the Tower of Babel, and in Revelation where he says he included all nations, tongues, and tribes. I'll leave you with this. If your religion tells you to hate people or put your faith in politics, you're doing it wrong. Some of those who work forces are the same ones who burn crosses. And remember, kids, the next time you think the government couldn't do that, oh yes, they could. The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Fire is catching, and if we burn, you burn with us. Thank you.
Ms. Botsworth, thank you. Nicholas Machuca, please.
Thank you. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that, but I do have some more woke in my pocket. I'm here representing Equality Florida once again to talk about 2 issues. First is the superintendent search that I know is progressing in a fairly appropriate manner so far, so I did want to thank you all for that. We hope to keep it that way. We want to ensure that the search and appointment of a new superintendent continues to be transparent, community-driven, and keeps the safety, inclusion, and achievement of all students at the forefront. This is an excellent opportunity to provide our students with a seasoned education leader and not a divisive personality. This can be a major step forward at a time of great scrutiny of this board. The superintendent search must continue to be a thorough and transparent process that allows for real community input. Our faculty, staff, students, and their families deserve to have a leader in education, not a politician. And importantly, the next superintendent should be someone that the board can agree on unanimously to help bring our community together. The next superintendent should be a candidate with significant experience. The ideal candidate has served as a teacher, a principal, and as a district administrator. Our students need a candidate focused entirely on academic excellence for all, and we believe someone with deep roots in education can be that person. We ask that this process not be secretive or rushed, and we appreciate the thorough timeline this board has laid out. Additionally, we hope to see a genuinely competitive selection process when the time comes, and we would like the public to remain involved throughout that step in the process as well. On another note, and here comes the woke, this year's state legislative session ended the week before last. By our measurement, it was the most virulently anti-LGBTQ session in the legislature's history. A number of explicitly anti-LGBTQ bills passed, ranging from policies that will censor higher education and accelerate book banning efforts to those that impose government restrictions on transgender students and encourage vigilantes to police their restroom visits. And by the way, some people would consider this a side distraction. It very much is not. It's a real experience that a lot of our students here in Sarasota will struggle with. And while we recognize we cannot ask this board to break state laws, we ask you to interpret these laws with compassion. LGBTQ kids are some of the most vulnerable in Sarasota's classrooms, especially right now. A majority of LGBTQ families recently surveyed said they'd considered leaving Florida altogether as a result of these laws, and nearly 15% indicated that they had already made plans to do so. This is an ominous warning that the students most at risk of depression, anxiety, and suicidality, 43% according to Student Representative Gabriel, are in a state of crisis. We ask that this board please keep this emergency top of mind as this district works within the new legislative landscape. Equality Florida remains available to provide guidance on ensuring our schools are safe and affirming of all students regardless of who they are. Thank you.
Mr. Machuca, thank you very much. Marjorie Peter, please, followed by Barbara Vaughn, followed by Leela Newcomb, please.
Hello again. My name is Marjorie Peter, a resident since '87 and the parent of 3 students who graduated from the district. I was really quite encouraged at the last meeting when Ms. Marinelli brought up the credo of Wilma Hamilton, every student, every day. And if that can guide us forward, our students will truly benefit. Students also benefit from consistency. That point was made by the superintendent search consultants at Riverview High School at the town hall I attended. They commented that a district benefits when the superintendent is in place for at least 5 years. Why? Because it takes that long to see the effects of the new plans and new initiatives that a superintendent brings to the table. If he or she is replaced frequently, in effect, if a new sheriff comes to town with his or her own set of plans and initiatives, the old plan disappears and all that work is lost. And to me, that's not an example of every student every day. But we have a new opportunity and a fresh start. The next superintendent must be experienced enough to work with a board that doesn't always agree, and that's fine. The next superintendent must have enough professional degrees to provide stature among his or her peers. And that individual must have experience leading a district perhaps even larger than our own, and one who can withstand political scrutiny. Because the politics of the people in this room, myself included, do not advance student achievement. What might help is some hands-on assistance from the folks in this room. Perhaps if we took turns helping in the library, judging the science fair, helping a struggling student with their reading, we'd get a clearer idea of what's working and where the help is needed. I have a humble suggestion. At the beginning of the public comment session, consider asking the speakers to spend 20 seconds of their time to describe what they did last week to help a teacher teach or to help a student learn. My activity? I took 3 hours yesterday and packed books for the summer reading program. 20 books go into a bag and the kids love it. Guess what? They need more volunteers tomorrow because 3,500 students have signed up to receive these books. Wouldn't this be a strong show of support for our educators? Thank you.
Mrs. Peters, thank you for your comments. Barbara Vaughn, please.
I'm Barbara Vaughn, a regular here, as you know, and I'm going to do what I always do, and that is pray. Father God, we give you thanks and praise because we have so much to thank you and praise you for. But today, Lord, I come to you with a heavy heart. Lord, we see so much on the news from other parts of the country where protests become violent and ugly, and we don't want that in our community, Lord. We don't want to see the people that we viewed as neighbors and even friends become angry and even violent towards us because they have a different opinion. We ask you, Lord, to turn everyone's heart to this podium to speak their words of whatever their opinion is, whatever their ideology is, Lord. Help them to speak it. Don't put them in front of someone's house, rebel-rousing the neighborhood, destroying the family life of an individual, and ruining someone's employment. Lord Jesus, we are not that kind of people in Sarasota County. We don't do those things here. Lord Jesus, help us. Help us to live the kind of life you would have us to live. Spread a table before us in the presence of our enemies. Show them that it is people on the right side, the side with you, Lord, that will feast on that banquet, not those who are walking in a dark valley or dark shadow, doing harm to people they disagree with. Lord Jesus, keep our comments here at the podium. Help us to discuss, not cuss. Help us to live in the same neighborhood without damaging each other's property or hurting each other's family lives. Help us, Lord. Help us to be the kind of community Sarasota County can be, needs to be, should be, and for the most part wants to be. We thank you for these and all the many things you give to us, Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Mrs. Vaughn. Leela Newcomb, welcome to the podium, please. Followed by John Kesich.
Hi, Leela Newcomb, grandmother of 3 in Sarasota Public Schools. I've been hearing that other school districts are also doing expensive superintendent searches only to end up discarding all of it and hiring some pre-chosen candidate. I do hope that this superintendent search is not just for show and that you haven't made up your minds already. If someone outside of the search ends up being the right fit and is qualified, more power to them. But I hope that you will listen to the citizens, to all of the parents, to the teachers and administrators, and use the power of your vote by the logic that you have demonstrated that you do have, for which I, again, commend everybody. Now, on to the subject of books. I certainly, absolutely do not want my grandchildren reading pornography. The thought makes me ill. I don't want access to pornography myself, but the books being banned need to be vetted through proper procedure. And please, I understand now that word banned has become a so-called buzzword, but if you look at real history and not the whitewashed version, you will plainly see that this could head in a dangerous direction. There's a video going around of a 100-year-old woman sharing her experience. If you all have not seen it, I'll email it to you, and we need to listen to our elders. And as a reminder, unless someone has other unspeakable plans, diverse segments of the population are here to stay. To quote a speaker I heard recently, you cannot legislate people or groups of people out of existence. Now, in my opinion, our society is going a little insane, so I'm going to lighten things up. I hope you like this. She's my green M&M girl. And she has the white go-go boots on, which I really love, and she's a character. She's not woke or anything else. I don't know. So anyway, I don't even know which side decided the go-go boots were no good and to replace it with sneakers so she looks like everybody else. I mean, I just wish people could be who and what they are, and unless they're hurting someone else, but let everybody be. Thank you.
Mrs. Newcomb, thank you for your comments. John Kesich, please. Followed by Wilson Pava, proud to say a former student of mine. Welcome back.
John Kesich from Venice. I have a list of questions for the board and your attorney that I would like to read into the record, and then I will present to the clerk for your subsequent action. I would like written replies. For the attorney, please explain whether offering Vermilion education and no-bid contract violated Florida statutes. If this was not a violation, what circumstances justified the board not putting the contract out for bid? Does this board have a legal responsibility to investigate credible allegations of grooming? Does it have a legal responsibility to determine whether claims of misconduct are credible? Does failure to rebuke a member of the public making slanderous comments about teachers, staff, or board members make the board an accessory after the fact to slander? To whom should any of the above potential crimes be reported for investigation and possible prosecution? For each board member, please provide a brief position statement or a link or reference to such a statement regarding HB 1, the expanded voucher bill. For Ms. Ziegler, who is unfortunately not here, is or was the woman who made allegations of grooming at the April 18th...
Excuse me, Mr. Kesich, I don't have the authority, but I am going to ask you to not personalize it. Please, I cannot make you, but I am, with as much respect as possible.
I am asking a direct question to Ms. Ziegler. Is that personalizing
Thank you, sir.
it?
Just really trying to keep this positive. Thank you, appreciate it.
Is or was the woman who made allegations of grooming at the April 18th board meeting one of your Moms for Liberty? In any event, had you discussed her comments with her prior to her making them? Now, I would like to believe that every member of this board has the best interests of the students at heart. However, when board members listen to the overwhelming, valid objections to the Vermilion contract and voted yes or stated that it should be reconsidered, I find that totally incompatible with that belief. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel.
Mr. Kesich, thank you for listening to my plea. Very much appreciated, and your comments and questions are appreciated. Thank you very much. Wilson Pava, please, followed by Sebastian Gerstl and Michelle Posey, please.
My name is Wilson Pava, and like a couple of our other speakers here today, I'm a proud product of Sarasota County Schools. I'm a current substitute in the district and a former teacher, and I've been notoriously missing because I've been laying low, but I saw something recently that I just had to come and talk about. We are in the midst of a very important superintendent search, and the consultants that were hired had town hall meetings not just for our community members, but for our staff members. And I attended one because, you know, I'm active, and I was shocked. We all fit at one table. There were 5 of us there. And one of the first things that was mentioned was, why aren't more people here? And the answer was fear of retribution. The superintendent search, I think, has to be centered around one of the many campaign promises that y'all made, which was to fix that deficit of trust that exists. But I would ask you to think not about the deficit of trust with a small, overly vocal community that hates our teachers and has put them into corners, but rather the deficit of trust that exists between the district, represented by the school board, between administrators and teachers. Because that's the trust that matters. Because you guys might set the policy, but if you don't trust the superintendent, that policy isn't getting implemented. And if the teachers and administrators don't trust that superintendent, don't matter what the superintendent tells us to do, we're going to we're going to do it halfway, and we're going to continue doing what we've always done here in the district, which is care for every single one of our students every single day. And I love the fact that Wilma Hamilton came up, because think of a better, can't. Maybe Lori White, who was amazing as well. And if we think about what made them so successful, it was that they were bridge builders, not bridge destroyers. They didn't go out there making bombastic statements. They didn't just simply kowtow to people who came up and said, oh, ban this book because I don't like it. They didn't kowtow to simply skipping the procedure, as has been done recently. What they did was they built up that trust with our staff members, with our community members, and with the board. And so all I would ask is that you guys have that in mind going forward. And keep that in mind as you decide who's going to be on those committees that are going to make suggestions to you. And Mrs. Peters, today I spent some time with one of my former students from Triad who hadn't been doing much work. And I was some of the day at Sarasota, and I worked with him for 2 class periods, more than I should have, because I got him out of class. But he finished more work than he had in the last 2 months. So that's what I'm doing for the district, and that is a really good idea. What have you done?
Mr. Pava, thank you very much for your comments. Sebastian Gerstel, please, followed by Michelle Posey, please, and followed by Ms. Robin Williams, please.
Members of the school board, interim superintendent, I'm Sebastian Gerstel, sophomore at Riverview High School. The purpose of education goes beyond academics. It must also include social education to ensure we craft leaders who are responsible, dedicated, and apply themselves. A high school student's grade is now composed of 80% academic and 20% what is called employability. This may seem like a great flex between rigorous academic lectures and basic social manners, but the current execution of this policy is fundamentally flawed. Employability's real purpose is clearly to simply just inflate grades, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, too many in our district only care about the money. Employability is meant to ensure students are performing in areas such as attendance, having the required materials, completing homework, but the enforcement of this policy is not consistent or effective. The issue we are in now is that we have 3 groups of students. Group 1 is both employable and successful academically. This group will be highly successful, and luckily, thanks to the work of this board and so many of our incredible staff members, that's the majority of our students. Group 2 is academically proficient, but not employable. This group, despite their good grades, will have moderate struggles in the future. And Group 3 is employable, but fails every test, they can't retain or can't apply anything they learn. This group will heavily struggle in life, and unfortunately, we have many of those students in this district. We need to focus on Groups 2 and 3. These are the groups getting shoved through high school unprepared socially or academically for the real world. Both will be hit in the face in life with issues they don't know how to address. This failed structure ignores negative behavior and masks academic weaknesses in students. It contributes to poor literacy rates and the common process of shoving students through grade levels even when they aren't ready. This system must be fixed to solve both behavioral issues and academic problems. Thank you.
Sebastian Gerstel, thank you for your comments. Michelle Posey, welcome to the podium, please.
Hi, thank you. Michelle Posey. I want to say just how proud I was when I watched the workshop today. I felt like there was a lot of really key, good questions that were asked from everybody, really. So I want to thank you for asking the right questions. I was alarmed, though, to learn that schools are purchasing additional materials without getting the district's approval. What good are legislative rails if there are workarounds in place? If we need to make this fix at the state level in the latest game of whack-a-mole, then we will. But what are board members prepared to do in the meantime to assure that school administrators are bringing materials before the board for approval? Again, in an act of complete transparency, all materials need to be brought into the sunshine and should be processed at the district level. This is of the utmost importance. I'm also pleased to see an attempt to be proactive by navigating towards a new vendor, Insignia. The attempt is being made to create more library transparency, but again, will the public be able to view these materials in the library online, not just parents, but taxpayers? I'm troubled to learn that teachers maintain their classroom libraries and that there is very little oversight on what is in the classroom libraries. Does this mean teachers are liable if inappropriate materials are found in the classroom? Do teachers want that obligation on their shoulders? I do not elect administrators, so I do not agree with them having the ultimate oversight. Just as Robin pointed out today in the workshop, she was told by administrators that gender guidelines are not advertised and they're not online, and yet, ta-da, there they are. That is extremely dishonest by our administrators, not to mention disgusting. You know, I'm learning now from the Jane Goodwin How to Groom guidelines that there's a term asexual.
Please.
Asexual, a minor not experiencing sexual attraction. There's always been a term for that. It's called childhood. It's the innocence of childhood. And I think that's sick and it's perverted that our students have to be inundated with that. This does not match our current legislation. There was even an LGBTQIA task force designed to promote these guidelines. You're excused. Wow, maybe we should create a literacy task force and attack with the same valor that we attack sexualizing kids. Again, I think most of you are doing that, but think of what we could do if we attacked educating kids with that same tenacity. Someone on the inside has been responsible for these acts in the past, and you must be on notice. Not on our watch, and not anymore. The hypersexualization of minors and embedding of this junk in our schools will be gutted and discarded. We, the taxpayers, will see to it. And again, this is why classroom materials and classroom library materials need to pass through this body first. We trust you and we elected you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Robin Williams, welcome to the podium, please.
Robin Williams. I want to thank the school board for the 4 town hall meetings seeking community involvement in the superintendent search. The search firm McPherson and Jacobson did an excellent job in seeking public input during the meetings with a combination of prepared questions utilizing electronic responses as well as taking questions and comments from the floor. Several of the takeaways from the town halls were that most people want a leader who holds a terminal degree, a PhD or EDD, has a wealth of educational experience, is highly intelligent, transparent, has integrity, listens to all stakeholders, and leaves politics out of the job. Many people also expressed the desire for a broad search that was both national and statewide rather than local. Today, Manatee County hired Dr. Jason Weissung from Seminole County. He's someone who seems to have a similar skill set to the indicated criteria that are important to our community, and it shows that even in this difficult time for superintendent recruitment, we should be able to attract candidates with the high standards Dr. Weissung brings to our neighboring district. Keeping politics out of school district decision-making seems to be a theme we've heard from many in the community. Toward that end, successful programs and companies that we've worked with previously should not be characterized as tainted because of their association with the existing strategic plan. Solution Tree is an established company that provides training, consultation, and resources for professional learning communities, which many high-performing school districts have utilized successfully with their faculty for the past decade or two to enhance collaboration and student learning. I support the approval of that contract. Another positive direction for our district will be to proceed with community schools. There are many success stories from around the nation with this approach, particularly in socioeconomically
challenged communities. Several years ago, Sarasota was very close to initiating local community schools, but a superintendent change coupled with the pandemic put it on hold. Now we hope the district will move forward with this very important initiative to help close our achievement gap. Wraparound support services for students are so important to their academic success. If they have vision, dental, psychological, childcare, or food insecurity issues, it may be difficult to do well in school. Let's have selected Sarasota Public Schools join the public community school success story. On a cautionary note, we must make sure all our students have access to thousands of books with diverse viewpoints. Broad education is needed to be successful in the 21st century global community. Library books must not be removed for months on end because someone doesn't like them. They have the freedom not to allow their child to access the book with our existing policy, but they don't have the right to restrict everyone else's children. That's dictatorship, not democracy. HB 1069 is clearly unconstitutional. Let's keep our bookshelves filled with books that let our students' minds soar and expand their horizons. Thank you.
Robin Williams, thank you for your comments. Elizabeth Bornstein, please, followed by, I believe it's Sandy Armstrong, followed by Dr. Stephen Gufanti, please.
Greetings, I'm Elizabeth Bornstein, parent of an elementary school student in the district. I'm here once again in support of public education for the success of all students and the families, teachers, staff, principals, and administrators. Also here as a taxpayer of 25 years, as a homeowner and taxpayer, I appreciate the positive impact of our A-rated schools and that they have on our property values. And as a parent, I truly value and love our amazing educational experience, especially the one my child's had for the past 6 years. With recent teacher and staff appreciation, and next week being my child's last week in elementary school, I'm full of gratitude for every teacher, staff member, and principal, assistant principal at Ashton Elementary. They are highly skilled and an amazing team, and we'll miss them a lot. They represent what public education is all about. And I'm grateful for all that has been accomplished for the betterment and strengthening of our Sarasota County schools. Thank you, Mr. Edwards, for supporting that 100% of the time, and Mrs. Marinelli and Mr. Enos and Mrs. Rose for your recent efforts, especially the last couple of board workshops and meetings, to collaborate as a whole board. It is refreshing, and I'm hopeful. Yet I find myself still shaking my head on two very shady issues. You know the saying, never trust a person that has let you down more than 2 times. Once was a warning, twice was a lesson, and anything more than that is simply taking advantage. How did the 3 of you vote, along with Mrs. Ziegler, to let Dr. Asplin go? He was the best person for the job, and now we're searching for a high-caliber candidate who would want to work here in this current climate. We expect you will be transparent in the process and hire the most capable and highly qualified. And number 2, how did Vermillion Education LLC ever make it on the agenda for consideration here? Board members, we expect you to be transparent going forward on all things and not let another board member usurp your power. Truly, I want to trust, but I'm gravely concerned about many issues and the future of Sarasota County schools. Many of us don't have the luxury of time to be watching all the workshops in entirety and attending every board meeting, yet these are serious times. I saw a post this week from Sarasota Moms for Liberty Chair quoting Joseph Stalin. Education is a weapon whose effect depends on who holds it in its hands and who it is aimed. And yes, public education is being weaponized right here in Sarasota County. Simon Sinek says the most important lesson of great leadership is that leaders always work for the people. That's why dictators always keep people divided. If the people are divided, the dictator stays in power. If the people who come together, the dictator is out. We need to come together. We need to come together now. I just want to share, and ironically, Mrs. Ziegler's not here, but my child told me a joke recently, and she said, "Do you know why you can't sit down when talking to a bully?" I said, "Why?" "Because you have to stand up to them. Here I stand."
Mrs. Bornstein, thank you very much. Appreciate the time you're giving to the board. Sandy Armstrong, followed by Dr. Stephen Gufanti, please. Followed by Melissa Bacondi and Lisa Scher.
Sorry, I thought I was after her. I'm Sandy Armstrong. I live in Sarasota County. I am concerned about a couple things, but I wanted to start off, this T-shirt I have on is from the school that was Freedom School, which had to be started outside of this school system, about African American history. And it was a wonderful school. I think I mentioned it the last time, but it's about African American history and life. I love that Mia showed us, or we showed Mia's pictures today. It was wonderful. I thought it was interesting that the hands that were reaching up were of multiple colors, and I want you all to remember we have multiple colors of children and families, and they need to feel safe. And right now, they don't feel so safe and they don't feel so recognized. And I know there are some laws you have to go through, but I want you to figure out some way to make them feel safe. I have one other thing that's just off to the side. I saw a student who had tests from Riverview High School, and this is for you, really, Superintendent, that they had to go to a church somewhere to take tests, and there were a lot of them there, and the air conditioning didn't seem to be working, and the fans weren't doing it. And this young person was very worried that she was so hot that she wasn't going to do well in her test. And I think we need to, when we find places for kids to go that aren't in our schools, we got to make them comfortable so that at least they can do their best on their test. I think that, we've had some school board people who've worn T-shirts that are reprehensible. They make LGBTQ people and their families uncomfortable. I'm very worried about these families' safety. I think we're kicking people out of the state. Some people here may think that's fine. I'm concerned that there are citizens whose indifference has let a lot of this happen. It's not all your all's fault. I think they have let it, and I hope that people will start having courage. And the courage, you can feel, you feel uncomfortable sometimes when there's courage. And John Lewis, who wrote Carry On, says, quote, "Good trouble is about dramatizing something that needs changing and correcting." So sometimes, Ms. Rose, we're going to have some people up here giving you some good trouble because we believe so strongly about that sort of thing. I would like to mention that I heard that there was some space in Venice that might be used for affordable housing. Once again, I asked about this before to be brought up in a board meeting. I'm asking one more time. Please bring this up in a board meeting where we can hear about it. Our teachers, I'm glad they got a pay raise, but we have all kinds of staff and teachers that need our support. Thank you.
Mrs. Armstrong, thank you very much. Dr. Stephen Guffanti, welcome to the podium, please. Followed by Melissa Bacondi, followed by Lisa Scher, please.
Wow, I should come here more often. Okay, how about that? Does that work? I founded the Rocket Phonics Foundation here in Sarasota to bring elementary remedial readers to grade level. So any of you who want to play with 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds, they don't even know they're learning to read, and but you have to be a funner. No serious people. Any rate, 90% of our children reach grade level, and none of this requires me to come to a board meeting. But this board has done an extraordinary job from day one. I had to acknowledge your courage, even while people are screaming at you. Probably the hardest issue you took was firing the superintendent. Dr. Aspirin was well-liked throughout the community, but he just couldn't dig us out of the hole his predecessor had put us in. The superintendent's job is to implement your policy, and when it's clear he couldn't do it, letting him go was your highest priority. And now parents are walking their kids to the classroom and taping their IEPs. And our teachers are enjoying the biggest raise in Sarasota history. Karen, thank you for seeing the children behind the numbers. Being an A-rated school district is great, but nearly 15,000 kids read below grade level, and you have not forgotten them. With all the political theater, it is easy to get distracted. yet you keep focused on the main purpose of our district, education. Tim, you are the invisible man. You ran to keep the children safe, and as long as no shootings happen on our campus, no one will notice you are keeping your word. But over 42,000 children will benefit from your efforts. And Robin, you understand the importance of parental involvement. It's how you turn Southside around. In both the education and the mental health of their children, your presence assures us the hidden agendas in the educational process and policies of our children will be weeded out. I know a ton of outsiders have given you grief for just breathing. Forgive them. They know not what they do. And Tom, you are great at PR. Maybe you can get the media to focus on reading? Thank you all for putting up with all the grief that comes with sitting on this board.
Thank you, Dr. Gafanti. Melissa Bacondi, welcome to the podium, please, followed by Lisa Scher, please.
All right. Board members, thank you for pausing Solution Tree and looking into it further. I also would ask that you would revisit Vermilion. An example of why we need a detailed examination came up in the workshop today, and I appreciate Ms. Marinelli for investigating the gender guidelines. I've been trying to bring that up for the last year, and I would like to fill you in on a little history. On August 17th, 2022, a high-level administrator, I will say her name once, and then I'll just say administrator, Deb Jackalone, gave testimony
Ms. Bacondi, please.
to the school board that there was an active, multidisciplinary team of experts comprised of students and school district members meeting to revise and revisit the transgender or gender guidelines. I've sent this video to you in the past, but I'm happy to send it again along with the associated emails. On August 21st, 2022, this high-level administrator, again I emailed along with copying then Superintendent Asplin, Bridget Ziegler, Karen Rose, to inquire about this so-called transgender committee that was meeting outside of the sunshine. I wanted to know who was on the committee, who picked them, and if they would be adhering to the new guidelines put forth by the Florida Surgeon General. I received no response from this high-level administrator. However, I did receive a series of emails from the superintendent, Asplin, who said he would be representing this high-level administrator. Asplin denied any such committee even existed. I re-emailed this high-level administrator, along with board members on December 9th, 2022, and again, no response from her. But we find out these are all lies. Now, apparently, as Ms. Marinelli stated in today's workshop, there is no longer just a gender guidelines committee, but there is an LGBTQIA task force. Number one, who is on this task force? Number two, how is it developed? And number three, why are they meeting it out of the sunshine and no questions being answered via email? Ms. Marinelli was also told that these transgender guidelines didn't exist by staff members, but they are on the website. We have two major problems. First of all, such a committee meeting outside of the sunshine is illegal, and the transgender guidelines are also going to be illegal in the state of Florida. Number two is that we apparently have staff that is possibly lying or incompetent. The high-level administrator, for almost a year now, refuses to answer questions about this illegal LGBTQ committee and its guidelines. I'm calling on the school board to investigate all district employers who are part of this cover-up. And next, all students who participated in these committees should really have letters sent to their families and was informed consent given prior to these minors participating in this illegal activity. And one more thing, Mr. Dugan, did you ever find out if Mr. Edwards posting pictures of students on his Facebook page was legal in the media release? This is part of him being a board member, and
I understand that. I honestly, may I please? I'm trying my very best. You can have 5 seconds, but I am pleading with you. Please, let's come together. I want to hear your points. This board does. In 5 seconds, please don't personalize. I can't stop you. I don't have the authority. I have thoroughly researched this. Unless we change our guidelines of what slander is, it's a high bar. But so hence, this is Sarasota County. I'm asking, bring your issues forth, but I am pleading. Please.
This is about the innocence of children. The citizens of this county have elected Ziegler, Enos, and Marinelli and Rose to fight CRT and LGBTQ indoctrination, and we cannot tolerate
Thank you.
activists,
Thank you,
districts-
Ms. Bacondi. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Welcome Lisa Scher to the podium.
Hi, I'm Lisa Scher. I'm one of the co-founders.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Could you please start Mrs. Scher's time over again, please? I apologize.
No problem. Lisa Scher, parent of a student in the district, one of the co-founders of Support Our Schools. I come to you today unprepared compared to how I usually come. But I spent the morning watching the workshop, and once again, it was excellent. I think what you need to do in the future, please don't take this as a personal attack, but you need to keep her out of the meetings. Because when she's not there, stuff gets done. And there's no picking on each other.
Please continue. There's no names being stated. Please continue.
Thank you.
Appreciate no personal names.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, there are going to be, perhaps you call them attacks, but when we, the community, find that you're doing something that we disagree with, we're going to let you know. I'm going to steal from, I think it was, Sandy Armstrong, good trouble. We're going to let you know, because that's what our job is as parents, okay? Excellent today, particularly very happy to hear about the Insignia program, which will make it easier for all parents to decide what books their children can read. Now, there seems to be an absolute sexual fetish going on now with books. We all believe, I think, in age appropriateness. We all believe that children should not be allowed to have pornography. The question is, who decides what's pornography? It's not Ron DeSantis. It's not the Florida legislature. It's not you. The courts decide, okay? So let's get that straight. Secondly, I'm very happy, I want to thank you, Mrs. Marinelli, on putting the brakes on moving forward with this, I don't know whether you call it realignment, restructuring of the administration, but we need to see a budget. I think we're all on the same page, everybody in this place. We need to see a budget. We need to do a deep dive. I spent half my life doing budgets, and what we've been seeing in the past is not cutting it. We need to look at where we're spending the money, put the money where it can do the most good, and that is taking care of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa Scher. Welcome Sarah Galloway, please, to the podium, followed by Sally Nista, followed by Carol Lerner, please.
So I've never done this before here, so where's the monitor? Okay, thank you. So this is probably my third meeting I've attended here. I moved here in July, and it's definitely a lot more comfortable being here now than in previous meetings. So I wanted to thank you for the orderly meeting, and I also want to thank you for the state of Florida's legislative process for making my kids' school environment safe. I came from the state of Michigan, which is progressively becoming oppressive. I had to take my daughter out of a school because they were going to give her illicit sexual materials that I did not know about until she came home and brought it to me. And when I tried to address it with the school, they had no concern. And then also my son, I just found out a few months ago that when he was 12 years old, he was given a book from a librarian who, that's how he learned about sex and childhood rape. And I just found this out just sitting in my living room. And that librarian stole that responsibility from me as a parent for this, intimate thing, but it was taught in a destructive, evil way. And you could tell it was upsetting to him, and he was embarrassed to even share that with me. I'm glad he did, but again, that was stolen from me, and I had no knowledge because I trusted the people in my school. I trust the librarian, and I asked him, why did you not tell me then? He goes, because I trusted her, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with it if she gave it to me. It just breaks my heart. So I just want to say I'm thankful that you're trying to clean up the schools. I hear there's still stuff that needs to be done, which is kind of upsetting, but I'm glad that there is some work being done. And books are, when people say things about banning books, I understand the historical context of that. Banning books is not, books are available at Barnes & Noble or wherever you want to go if that fits your values, but if it's something that needs to be curated because it's inappropriate for kids, we have to be on top of that because I'm a personal survivor of that as far as my kids go, and I want to be respected for that. I just want to thank you for providing a strong academic school for my kids. My kids are actually all thriving. I have 2 high schoolers and a 5th grader. I didn't know that there were so many programs here in the state of Florida that will give her the opportunity to get scholarship based strictly on her merit and her ability to give her hours to the community. I mean, that's kind of unheard of in Michigan. Now it's becoming based on your sexual identity or your color of your skin is where a lot of these scholarships are going. So I'm just really thankful for being here, that I didn't even know this existed. And I'm just thankful for this district because it's a place I want to feel safe with my family.
Thank you, Ms. Galloway. Welcome Sally Nista to the podium, followed by Carol Lerner, followed by John Sotera, please.
Sally Nista. The state guidelines for our media specialists advise them to err on the side of caution. If it makes them uncomfortable to read out loud in public, then do not buy or put on a shelf. Lawn Boy is currently being challenged and reviewed by this district. I wanted to share a few passages, just 2 pages out of 30 from this book. I want to say, this is not me. This is tough to do because it's disgusting, and so parents with children, please be cautioned. Page 25. Speaking of fags, look at that homo by the window. Lay off the fag stuff, I said. Are you a fag too? Fags are just people. Yeah, people who stick shit up their butts. Page 54. You see what they're putting up, a Mexican market across the street? So, who do you think's going to shop at it? Mexicans? People who like Mexican food? Bingo. So, why do you give a shit? Because this place is starting to look like Tijuana. You ever been to Tijuana? Fuck no. Why would I go to Tijuana? Hey, look at that fag over by the jukebox. That's Ron's little brother. He's a youth pastor. He's a total homo. Yeah, more pussy. I'm being serious, Nick. So am I. I'd like to be getting considerably more pussy than I'm currently getting. What about a steady girlfriend? Fuck that noise. Then I'd never get laid. See, you sound like a total misogynistic when you say stuff like that. Fuck you, I don't see you getting laid. This isn't about getting laid, Nick. This isn't literature. This is available in Sarasota County schools for our kids. It's filth. This isn't about banning books. This is about protecting our children. Schools are required to err on the side of caution. This book situation is symptomatic of what's happening in our district. It is what is within that matters. The strategic plan is the bones and the guiding document of our district. The plan that currently is in place was developed with DEI ideology. A board member acknowledged that he is working from inside the most strategic place to bring these policies in. A former board member last week boasted at a presentation that she worked from the inside for years and years with Equality Florida, a LGBTQ promoter, because it was the easiest way to do it. DEI places segregation, discrimination, and indoctrination beliefs above academics. Our test scores and this school system will not reach excellence until this current strategic plan is
Carol
replaced.
Lerner, welcome to the podium. Thank you, Ms. Nista.
Carol Lerner for Support Our Schools. I just want to point out, while the last speaker was reading it, there was a young child standing behind me. The Sarasota School Board has a critical task ahead. The selection of a superintendent. I found last week's excellent town meeting led by McPherson and Jacobson at Riverview High School very helpful. At this town hall, there was a clear consensus from the parents and community members attending that when it comes to selecting a superintendent, the community wants a well-credentialed, highly experienced education leader who supports fact-based creative learning, who rejects divisive politics, who listens with openness and compassion to all, who can move ESE forward, and who can truly begin to close the achievement gap for low-income ESE and ELL students. There is one way to achieve many of these goals while bringing our very fractured community together. That is by implementing the community school model, particularly at low-achieving Title I schools. The community school model provides students and their families with wraparound services and supports, the very services and supports needed by many students to achieve academic success. This can help to close the achievement and opportunity gap that particularly exists for so many of our students of color, our English language learners, and our students with disabilities. A couple of years ago, Sarasota District was close to adopting this model, but it was put on hold due to a change in district leadership. With the community school model, parents can voluntarily access for their children and other family members on-site medical and family support services. Community schools are individualized around the specific needs of a school community, but along with medical and family services, community schools typically provide academic supports, including before and after school tutoring, academic enrichment programs, and high-quality recreational services. The school truly becomes the hub of the community. For over 10 years, Florida has supported a specific model called community partnership schools. It enjoys a wide bipartisan legislative support and is overseen by the University of Central Florida, which provides state funding and program guidance. Overwhelmingly, educators support this model because it allows them to focus on teaching academics rather than becoming part-time social workers. Empirical evidence shows that teacher turnover is lowered, discipline problems are significantly reduced, and the achievement gap is narrowed in schools that adopt a community school model. I can personally attest to the beauty of this model because over 50 years ago, I worked as a graduate student at a community school demonstration project in Philadelphia, one of the first, if not the first, community school program in the nation. Let's select a good superintendent and one that supports community schools, but let's get to work laying the groundwork for implementing community schools.
Carol Lerner, thank you for your input. John Sotera, welcome to the podium, please, followed by our last speaker of the day, Connie Bruni.
Good evening, everybody. Some new faces here. I would just like to introduce my name is John Sotera, and I have quite a few children in the school district. This is my son, Gage Sotera. I want you to see what a kid looks like when he gets bullied on a daily basis. And I take it up at the school, and I get punished. I got thrown out of school yesterday by an officer. He ran into the office and told me he's going to call the police on me. Why didn't he arrest me? What was the fear? That was kidnapping. He kidnapped my son yesterday, or the day before. And when we see this going in our schools right now, any one of you guys want to question him? Or when he puts up with a daily
Please
basis?
address the board, sir.
With racism, with brutality, and then when people stick up for him, his friends and family that are of color to fight these people, they get suspended and expelled. I'm here to fix this for him. I'll do anything I can. With the last board members that we had, I had to write bail numbers on my arm from being drug out of here for speaking my mind. This is a gross and disgusting things that is happening in our schools. If he is going to be exposed to any of these things that we spoke about, it's my decision and determine when and how he's ready to learn these things. Our body growth tells us chemically and physically when these things should be taught to our children. And the bullying's got to stop. I'm being picked on and being thrown out of schools because I stand up for my son being picked on and bullied. Wilkinson Elementary School has to be addressed. And if none of you guys are willing to address it, I will go higher and I will keep going. Because I made I love you with all my heart. And nothing will ever happen to you again. I give you a cell phone, and I promise you with my life, you will not be harmed, and you will never be afraid again. If none of these people do nothing, you can count on me forever. Forever and ever. Even when I'm gone, God will be with you. Thank you. If something's not done by the board members, tomorrow morning I'm going to take him into school. He threw me out the other day, and my son didn't go to school because he's afraid of being bullied again, and his friends being bullied for sticking up with him. Like I did before, I'll go to other state agencies like you guys did to me for speaking up many years ago. Thank you and have a good night.
Mr. Sotera, thank you.
Can he speak? What do you have to say? Go
Not
ahead.
tonight, sir. What I am going to ask Mr. Sotera is that Dr. Foster follow up with her staff and that someone gets back with you as you've requested in the morning and more information unfolds. We want to work with you. Thank you, sir.
Withheld everybody's name out of respect.
Thank you,
for
Mr.
your time.
Sotera. Ms. Connie Bruni, Mrs. Connie Bruni, welcome to the podium, please. Mr. Sotera. Thank you, Mr. Sotera. Mrs. Connie Bruni, welcome to the podium, please.
Thank you for letting me talk today. I hope I can reach the microphone. I had a question on item number 29. Construction services change orders reflect an increase of $7,615,264.69. Is it just me, or does that seem like a lot of money in a change order? I've sat where you guys are, and change orders are a big deal, so I'd love to understand that better. I was very happy to see that item 37 was paused. Thank you. We appreciate that you are taking a deeper look at Solution Tree and a $500,000 contract that may be connected to SEL. We're very concerned about that. The gentleman who spoke his mind at the last meeting was attacked by folks in this room, including losing his job. I want to make sure you know that. Personal attacks and cancellation must stop in this chamber. We can disagree on issues. We will. We understand that. But they don't have to attack each other personally. That happened to me yesterday because I spoke out about my opinions on education. I had a death threat, my first official death threat in Florida. Had them when I lived in California, but not here. So I hope that the gentleman will seek redress in every manner possible. I know I will. Number 4, while you may not see us all the time, we are watching. And we were watching this morning the workshop. And I want to thank you for your work. All of you were working very diligently and asking tough questions of your staff. And we really, really appreciate that. It's not simple, nor is it comfortable to do that in the position that you have when you're dealing with your own staff. But we were watching, and we very much appreciated on several issues that you did this. I'm going to stop with Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. God bless you.
That concludes public comment, and I want to thank all of you for coming and taking the time to provide feedback to the board members. And again, thank you for bearing with me in my intrusion on your public comment. I appreciate the ability to do that. Looking at additions and corrections to the agenda, Dr. Foster, please.
Yes, thank you. Added to the agenda, item number 7, an addendum to the instructional and classified personnel report. Item number 41, Pineview Schools Odyssey of the Mind World Finals Field Trip for May 24th through May 28th. There were 3 agenda items that were pulled from new business. Item number 37, the approval of the agreement with Solution Tree. Item number 39, the new job description for the Executive Director of Leadership Development. And item number 40, the new job description for the Executive Director of Professional Learning. Thank you.
Moving on, thank you, Dr. Foster, to approval of the consent agenda. Item number 7, do I have a motion, please?
I move for approval of consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second, please?
I'm going to make an amendment.
Okay. Second. Thank you. Does anyone have a comment? Please. Mr. Edwards.
I'd like to make a motion that items number 10, 11, and 12 be taken from the consent agenda and moved to new business for discussion.
I will second that. Take a,
So you would vote on the amendment, which is to approve which I think as restated would be a motion to approve the board agenda as presented, as amended by Mr. Edwards.
we have a motion to approve the amendment as submitted by Mr. Edwards and seconded by me to move agenda items number 10 and 11 and 12 to new business. And approve the consent agenda as amended. Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
And we need a second.
Second.
And we'll take a voice vote on that.
Yeah.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli?
Yes.
And the vice chair votes yes, and that passes unanimously. So, moving to new business,
Which now includes 10, 11, and 12.
which now includes 10, 11, and 12. Mr. Edwards wants to challenge me this evening with his numbers, so I'm challenging you to walk and help me through this. So we'll start with, I'm presuming, 10, agenda item 10, and which, if I'm reading this correctly and the numbers haven't changed, looking for feedback here, approval under new business. First item would be approval of the 23-24 student progression plan, or are numbers accurate with
Yes.
that? Okay, thank you,
Yes.
sir. Do we have a second? And then I'll open for discussion.
I think we need a motion to approve it and then a second.
Thank you, sir. Motion for approval of the 2023-2024 Student Progression Plan, item number 10. Do I have a motion?
That was a motion. I think you need a second.
Second, for Ms. Marinelli. Thank you.
Second.
And discussion, please. Mr. Edwards.
I'd like to make a motion for an amendment to the student progression plan to create a form for parents upon entering the new school year, and that form would allow parents to opt in on all library media center materials so they don't have to go through each book until the insignia program comes in. I've had many requests that parents didn't really want to have to go item by item to opt or to give approval, so that one form could allow them to opt in to all books that are available.
Comment?
You would need a second.
Do we have a second? Mr. Edwards is amending it to create a form for parents to opt in on all library media materials. Do we have a second? I'll ask one more time. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Anyone have, Ms. Marinelli, please?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Rose. I'll ask our attorney, can we do that? Would that be in violation of any of the new legislation if we just have an opt-in and parents might not know what the books are in the library?
I would want to look at what the item number 10 says. I would want to look at what the form says. I mean, I think it probably is more appropriate for create the form first and then vote on whether the form, is valid as presented, rather than to vote to approve a form that we don't know what it looks like yet.
Mr. Enos, you're up before you go. I'm not opposed to this or against it. I don't think, I would like to workshop it versus have our experts come and make comment. I think this is dialogue we can have back and forth with the legal counsel. That's my individual comment. Mr. Enos, please.
I was just going to ask in reference to compliance. So I asked Mr. Manoogian to step towards the podium just if he had an answer in regards to Ms. Marinelli's question about Florida State statute in regarding to compliance, because if that would not make it a compliance, there would be no reason to workshop it. That would be my only discussional piece.
Please. I'm sorry. Mr. Edwards, you have a comment?
Yeah,
first?
I think that the point being is that with the last book, it's not that it prevents book challenges, is not my goal, is that challenges could still happen, but in the case of stamped, if a child wanted to check that out, then they have to go through the process of seeking approval. There are many parents that don't really want that process to happen, that they want to be able to opt in, and that any book that would be available for my student, I'm okay with them checking it out. So it's just kind of that parent's right, that any book that my child would like to check out, I approve.
I just wanted to point out that House Bill 1069, it's a proposed piece of legislation that's on the governor's desk. It hasn't been signed, but there is a distinct line item in that piece of legislation that speaks to your point, which will require every district to provide the opportunity for parents to, I'll say, opt in or opt out. So, I mean, it's there. So, I mean, we can proceed however. I just wanted to point that out.
If I may, now that I more properly understand what Mr. Edwards is attempting to do, I think that's more properly constitutes rulemaking. There's a process for, so we have a policy on how, books are checked out. There is legislation. I can tell you there's a draft policy that incorporates some changes to House Bill 1069 if it is signed by the governor. And I think what Mr. Edwards is attempting to do is more properly constitutes rulemaking, which there's a process for statutorily, which requires, a request to advertise a policy change, discussion of it, advertising it in the newspaper, that type of thing. So I think it would be improper to do it today, but I think it can be done. I would recommend having this go on to a workshop and having formal board action to authorize a policy change to that rule.
Mic on, please.
So I'd have to look at the student progression plan. I don't know if there is, authorization there to have a form or not have a form. I just don't know enough specifically about what the student progression plan provides and whether having a form is consistent or inconsistent with that.
So with the amendment to create a form for parents to opt in on all library media materials, are we voting on that to close this out at this time and then going back to new business of approval of the 23-24 student progression plan?
I think doing so, it would be up to you all to approve the student progression plan or not. I think if you want to do what Mr. Edwards is proposing, that's more properly, in the policy rulemaking posture, not a student progression approval posture. I'd have to look at the student progression plan.
I agree, having been familiar with the approval of the student progression plan. So again, looking for guidance. Are we voting on the amendment or in order to go back to new business?
Procedurally, I believe there was a motion and I believe there was a second, so you'd have to vote on Mr. Edwards's motion procedurally. So you'd vote yes or no to Mr. Edwards' motion as amended.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to call a voice vote. Mr. Edwards, please.
If I can, I was.
Sure.
I don't come here and hope for the best. I do some research to make sure that I'm placing the amendment at the appropriate place, and my counsel is such that a form of this nature would belong on the student progression plan. So that's why I brought it up. So I don't know that it requires a tremendous amount of due diligence if we were to workshop it and to put the plan on hold so that it can all be done at one.
Well, it's my understanding, Mr. Edwards, that, and correct me if I'm wrong, perhaps Mr. Cantis, that we can add or make changes to the pupil progression plan in the future. Is that correct?
So this version of the student progression plan you're getting is pre-legislative update. We're going to have a number of changes to the student progression plan based on legislative update in the future. So two things I think is, as our team, after July 1, we start studying the legislative updates and we get all the pertinent information that's required for the student progression plan in particular, then we will add those, and it goes out for 30 days of public comment, then it comes back for another vote. So that's definitely going to occur. The second thing I'd like to say is I'm not sure a form of this type would fit into the student progression plan. I'm not familiar with any forms that we put in the student progression plan of this type, but it would seem to fit within our registration packet for students as they're registering for the new year, and that's an electronic process itself. So that's the two comments I would have. Definitely going to be bringing the student progression plan back for sure. Probably I would say August is when we'll do it. We do it every year. And there's a lot of legislation this year, so that's definitely going to happen. And ultimately, if 1069, as Rob was mentioning, Mr. Manoogian mentioned, that would be part of the student progression, or that would be part of, might be part of the student progression plan, that legislative update. Okay?
Thank
That
you,
help?
Mr. Canties.
Then I will happily remove my amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. And the protocol for, does that need to be,
Well, I think you have a motion to amend, and you had a second, so I think the proper procedural thing to dispose of it would be to vote it down.
that's what I thought. Yes, thank you. I'm going to call a voice vote on the proposed amendment, create a form for parents to opt in on all library media materials. Mr. Edwards, voice vote, please.
I'm still going to vote yes.
Mr. Enos.
No.
Ms. Marinelli.
No.
And the vice chair votes no, and it does not pass. And with a vote of 3 noes and 1 yes. So now moving back to new business, agenda item 10, approval of the 2023-24 student progression plan. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-24 student progression plan as presented.
I second. I have a motion and I have a second, but I also have Mr. Duggan looking at me perplexed.
So this is the proper procedural place to be right now.
All right, thank you. I'm moving right along. And I'm going to take a discussion. I don't see anyone's names up for discussion. We will proceed with a voice vote. Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mr. Enos.
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli.
Yes.
And the vice chair votes yes, and we have unanimous approval of agenda item number 10, approval of the 23-24 student progression plan. Moving on to new business number 11, approval of middle school fees. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to, regarding the approval of the middle school fees as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yeah, so for me, 11 and 12 kind of can go together in this discussion.
I'm going to beg you, please, one agenda item at a
Okay, I hear you, but
You are
may
definitely
thank
giving me practice.
You may thank me. What my concern here is, although they don't seem astronomical, I know that we all got the answer to my question was, what are those fees and what are they for? I think at a minimum, they should be, and it does say at the bottom that they're waived upon request, but I think at a minimum, 47% of our student population is at or below the poverty line. And if the student is already on free and reduced lunch, I think it should be automatically waived so that there's not an additional question or perhaps the family might feel uncomfortable or whatever. So I'm just saying that those fees can be automatically waived if the student is already on free and reduced lunch. At some point, I'd like to even discuss them further to see if there's something we can do as a district in general. But for today's purposes, I'm suggesting that they coincide with free and reduced lunch.
So on agenda item number 11, new business, you are making a motion to add
Yes.
an automatic waiver if a student is on free and reduced lunch. Is that correct, Mr.
Yes.
Edwards?
It sounds like it would be a motion to approve item number 11 with the amendment that if the student is on free and reduced lunch, that the fee would automatically be waived.
All fees.
All fees.
I'm, Dr. Foster, please.
Yeah, I just want to check on that because my understanding is that it's confidential information. So that is, it's very, there are very few people that are allowed to have that information, and the parent does have to disclose that before we're able. I know from being at the school with school uniforms, the parent would share, and automatically then they were then given the uniforms. But it was we are not allowed to have that information, is my understanding.
That's correct, Dr. Foster. Even when we are progress monitoring students and discussing data, the students who are granted reduced or free lunches or breakfast, we are not allowed to disclose those names. I think that we can, your motion has great merit, and I think that we can look to staff in the future. That's my individual experience and perception. I wholeheartedly agree with you in considering that need. I don't think we can do it in the amendment that's been put forth, so would you like to
Well, is there a second
comment?
to it?
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, there should be either a second or no second to that motion.
Is there a second to Mr. Edwards' motion approval of middle school fees? And he's wanting to include agenda item number 12, approval of high school fees, with an amendment that would automatically waive any student that is receiving free and/or reduced.
I tell you, we should do them one at a time. So what we have on the table is item 11, which, as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Edwards, is a motion to approve item number 11, but automatically waive all fees if the student is on free and reduced lunch. And then we have not yet had a second. It would be up to the rest of the board to either second that or not second that. Is that correct, Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Mr. Duggan, for restating it. Once again, do we have a second? With no second, that motion fails. And Mr. Edwards, please.
Then I would suggest we find another barometer. Because I think that our district has the ability to afford to take on some of those responsibilities for families that might find themselves in that situation. And I am trying to find it in a way that we can offer the dignity that would go along with that process. And so if it's not free and reduced lunch, I'm open to suggestions on how we can do that.
Mrs. Marinelli, please.
Yeah, I support what you're saying, Mr. Edwards. I just think we need to get the feedback from our staff and how we can do that. So I don't think we can do anything right now, but I think to bring it up probably at a workshop or so we can figure out how we can get to that goal.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay, so moving, Mr. Duggan, you have
So it sounds like the motion as amended by Mr. Edwards fails for lack of a second, and now you're just back to the original number 11 for approval or denial.
moving to new business, agenda item number 11. Is there a motion for approval of middle school fees?
I move for approval of middle school fees as presented.
Is there a second? I will second it. Do we have comment, discussion on number 11? Call for Ms. Marinelli.
Thank you. I just need a point of clarification. If we approve number 11 now, can we go back and address it so we can have the
Yes, you could. So if you approved it now, you would approve it as they are presented currently.
Okay.
That would not prevent you from going back later after they're approved in the current form and revisiting it. Or you could not approve it now and put it on a workshop, and thus none of the other fees would be approved, would be the result of that, including, fees for people on free and reduced lunch. So that would be up to you whether you want to approve them for now and then revisit the points that Mr. Edwards brought up, or not approve any of the fees as presented.
Dr. Foster?
My thought is potentially to approve the fees so that families that are planning to pay the fees know what they are. But then there's the part that lists that all schools provide waiver information, and maybe that is the component that we put on a workshop and discuss what that waiver process looks like, and then communicate that out to the families.
My understanding.
Mr. Edwards?
My understanding is these fees that we're approving are for next school year, not for this.
They're for the 23-24 school year. So typically what we do is we send out all that information now as we go into the summer. So families start, as they go through the registration process, typically they would start to submit the fees if the students are going to be participating in certain programs. And so that would be my thought, is at least those that know that they would be paying the fees would know what they are, and those fees would be set, but we can work through the process of what that waiver information process looks like and make it so that families that are in need of support, that it is easy for families to receive that support in a way that is confidential.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. Mr. Edwards?
Yeah, I don't think there's a sense of urgency to get it done right at this time, so I won't be supporting it.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of middle school fees, and we have a second, and seeing no more discussion, I'm going to call for a voice vote. Mr. Edwards?
No.
Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli?
Yes.
And the vice chair votes yes. The motion of approval of middle school fees passes 3-1. Moving on to agenda item under new business number 12, approval of high school fees. Do I have a motion?
I move for approval of the high school fees as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Is there discussion, please? Mr. Enos, I saw you hit the button, but it's not showing up.
Because I'm invisible. But anyway, what I would say is, as a Dr. Foster, to get back to what Mr. Edwards has stated, I think that if we could add that, I know on the next agenda, I know it's busy, but I don't think that if we get recommendations from staff, I would like to be able to put that on there so that we can look for those families, because I think that's something that we all support.
Sure.
Thank you.
Is that for the workshop or for the board?
Workshop.
Okay.
Any more comment? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second for approval of high school fees. I'm going to call a voice vote. Mr. Edwards, please.
No.
Mr. Enos.
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli.
Yes.
And the vice chair votes yes, and the motion for approval of high school fees passes 3-1. Moving on in sequence here, I believe we're moving to item number 35. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And do I have a motion to approve the charter contract between Sarasota Suncoast Academy and the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida, as presented?
I move for the approval of the charter contract between Sarasota Suncoast Academy and the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida, as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Is there discussion, comments? Seeing none, I'm going to call for a voice vote. Mr. Edwards, please.
Yes.
Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli?
Yes.
And the vice chair votes yes, and we have a unanimous 4-0 approval of agenda item number 35, approval of the charter contract between Sarasota Suncoast Academy and the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida, as presented. Moving on to item number 36, that the board's audit committee membership list be approved as presented. Do I have a motion?
I move for the approval of the audit committee members list as the board designee Karen Rose, District 1 Sue Meminger, District 4 Jessica Thompson, District 5 Sharon Matthews, as presented.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Do we have any comments or discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a voice vote, please. Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli?
Yes.
And the vice chair votes yes. That is a unanimous 4-0 vote approving that the board's audit committee membership list be approved as presented. Moving on to item number 37, that the agreement that was removed for a future agenda. So item number 38, that the settlement agreement between Robert Prancevic and Susan Cheney Prancevic and the School Board of Sarasota County be approved as presented. Do I have a motion?
I move for approval of settlement agreement regarding Robert Prancevic and Susan Cheney Prancevic versus Laura K. Lott and the Sarasota County School Board, case number 2023-CA-000599-NC, as presented.
Second.
Is there a comment or discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a voice vote. Mr. Edwards, please.
Yes.
Mr. Enos.
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli.
Yes.
And the vice chair votes yes. That is a unanimous approval that the settlement agreement between Robert Prancevic and Susan Cheney Prancevic and the School Board of Sarasota County be approved as presented. Item number 39 was moved to a future agenda. Item number 40 moved to a future agenda. And looking at item number 41, that the Pine View Schools Odyssey of the Mind Team field trip to East Lansing, Michigan on May 24th through the 28th, 2023 be approved as presented. Do I have a motion?
I move approval of the Pineview Schools Odyssey of the Mind World Finals field trip to East Lansing, Michigan on May 24th to the 28th of 2023 as presented.
Second.
There is a motion and there is a second. Is there any discussion or comments?
Just to offer them congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Marinelli. Seeing none, I'm going to call for a voice vote. Mr. Edwards, please.
Yes.
Mr. Enos.
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli.
Yes.
And the vice chair votes yes, and Pineview has a unanimous vote to go on their field trip. We are moving on to board member comments or discussion. Any board members? Mr. Enos, please.
This is graduation week, so I just want to give a shout out to all the high schools and the seniors that are going on. Hopefully, they're all attending Florida State University, the greatest university in the entire country. Outside of that, though, truly, I as a graduate of the Sarasota County Schools, I would just say that, good luck on your journey in the future in higher education, and come back here after you graduate to support our community. And like I said, best of luck to all of them, and congratulations.
I see no further comments or discussion by the board. And the announcements, the next work session is scheduled for Tuesday, June 2nd at 9:00 a.m., followed by a board meeting at 3 o'clock. And I thank all the public comments that have recognized the work that this board has collectively put into workshops, and I think we are all enjoying them. I thank my colleagues for working together. A great board meeting, the first one I've been able to lead, and it's been a pleasure. This meeting is adjourned.